Everybody, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us here for a little bit as we talk about something that is near and dear to our heart, security. Go figure. Solutions Granted wants to talk about security. One thing that I always like to talk about when it comes to security is the responsibility of it. For those of you that may have been on last month's webinar, those of you that have come to an ASCII or somewhere else where I presented, I talk about this a lot because I think it's important for us all to understand, but also come to that agreement on who is responsible for what. So at the end of the day, it's all of us. There's no one person you could point the finger at that's more responsible than the other. You as the MSP have to be responsible to doing the right thing by your customer, educating them, telling them, giving them enough reasons to understand why they need to take their security responsible. The end user has to trust you. They have to be responsible enough that if they're going to give you the keys to the kingdom, if they're going to allow you to do the job, that they're going to follow your lead, that there is going to be far more that they have to do other than just saying yes. And honestly, you don't want them saying yes because saying yes gets them to click on the wrong thing a little bit more than they probably should. And it's this whole chain, this whole life cycle. So the end user has to do their part. They have to be responsible. The MSP, you have to do your part. You have to be responsible. Us as the MSSP, we have to be responsible. And then all of the manufacturers for all of the tools and everything that we're using, everything that you're using, they have to do their part. And if we're not following the best practices, well, that's a terrible thing. Very recently, we were looking for a new backup vendor because we were struggling with the ones that we had. So we decided to give Datto a shot at their backups. And one of the things that was surprising to me is Will, who is our vice president of security operations, they say, do a secure setup, I think was loosely what Will had told me. But it is everything that you need to know so that when you're setting that Datto backup up, it gives you all the ports, it gives you all the protocols, it gives you everything that you need to know so that if you're doing security right, that it was easy. And it just worked. Will said he did everything that was in the documentation and all the guidance that was given to him, and it just worked. So what that really shows is here's a manufacturer that is not doing the extra step. Now, what I would say is they are probably doing the extra step because I don't hear that most other manufacturers are doing this. But what I would say is they're just doing it right. I don't know that it's extra, but we'll give them a little bit more credit only because others aren't really following that lead at the moment. So those are the type of things that I'm talking about. We all take our responsibility to become the bigger, better, stronger team. I know we're here to talk about cloud MDR today, but I want to bring this point back around. We keep having this problem. Corey, I don't know what you think the stats are, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, but how often when we have a partner that has some sort of incident or event, do you see one of these be the contributing factor? What do you think the percentages are?
I'll give them at least 88%.
88%. But think about that for a moment. So you've got the best next gen AV. You've got log monitoring everywhere. You've got firewalls that you're doing all of this great stuff to, but you've got no MFA. You have no role-based access control. You've done no network segmentation. You don't have a password manager. You've got patch management, but you're completely reliant on the RMM and you're not really looking at it. You're not spot checking it. You're not understanding or using a vulnerability management. No conditional access. And worst of all, open RDP. And we all know that you shouldn't be doing it. We talk about it, but we keep finding it. And so when we see these events, and I'm being careful right now, I'm not calling it a breach. Now I can, absolutely. I think somebody like Corey should actually use the word breach when it's appropriate. I could use the word breach when it's appropriate. I think you as MSPs should make sure you stay away from that word. Call it an event, call it an incident. Because when you use that B word, it turns things into something that there is a chain of events that starts to happen that you just don't want to be responsible for later on. So take a good hard look at the things that you're doing. And I love, all of our partners. I love what you're doing with us. Make sure you're doing your part. Make sure you're being responsible, because if you're not, it's going to create more of a bad day for you, more of a bad day for your client, more of a bad day for us. These things aren't easy, but they pay more than the effort you put into them. So let's get into this and kind of lay that groundwork. Um, I think everybody's probably heard me say this before. Not the biggest fan of Gartner most of the time, only because I think it's a little too political and a pay to play type mentality. But in their peer insights on their website, this is one thing that I've taken from them that I think they've got spot on. Just defining what is MDR. And I don't need to read it for you line for line, but it just loosely translates to the fact that we're talking about a combination of technologies. We're talking about getting more than just one thing to do this job, but it has to be backed with human beings. That expertise is incredibly important. It's about the incident investigation, it's about that validation. There's a lot of false positives that happen. I think Corey and his team can attest to that. We see a lot of things happening at first glance, at first look, at first algorithm run. It has been convicted, it's bad, it's not good, and we should be acting on it. But you have to have that validation piece. You have to have the investigation so that we can get rid of those and allow the human beings to really bring and enrich that investigation and make it better. So remember, an MDR is more than just a single piece of technology, and it's more than just technology.
It's 100%.
So, yeah, you know what? Hey, so I am not going to read my own words. That just feels really, really weird to me. I don't know if anybody else is this way, but I don't like hearing myself speak. So I sure as heck am not going to go ahead and read my own words. So Corey, help me out here a little bit because I don't want to do it.
I thought it would be amazing if he came on here and he was like, all too often we hear the word, oh, this is quoted by the best person around. Yeah, Michael Crean, CEO of Solutions Granted.
If I sounded like Samuel L. Jackson, then maybe, but no, I don't. So,
okay, so I'm going to put this in my own words, but you do have a visual of Michael's quote here. So, for so long, we've been accustomed to MDR on the endpoint. As time has grown, as things have progressed, even as COVID hit, and more solutions and more organizations are becoming reliant on the cloud, we need to shift our mentalities to start treating what I have labeled, I created this word today, it's marine to me, cloud points, right? Which is, all of your information, all of your users in the cloud need to be treated just like endpoints. They need the same level of security. They need the same level of monitoring because you have just as much to lose.
Before you move on, Corey, this idea really started from a gentleman by the name of Josh Lieberman. He wrote an article. He ran it past me. I'd never really thought about 365 and not taking away from any other cloud sources out there or G Suite. But he wrote this article talking about 365 and treating it like an endpoint. And it was really cool. It was a really cool eye-opening event for me. And it really has just turned us down a different path by that one simple idea to where we're now landing today. And we're actually starting to see a lot of other players in the space land there as well.
100%. Many of you know, a lot of you as well are taking advantage of our Avanan offering. So as we described earlier, it's a combination of tools along with the human element. And that's a very, very important piece. Having a human element of expertise, being able to analyze what's happening. Because as you know, 99% of the stuff of logs that come in are just trash, junk, don't even need to be looked at. They're just noise. And so we've decided to combine what we feel is our best tool sets. So one is our Avanan piece. That is email security. That is API based. Gateways do still have a part out there, but I'll tell you, gateways are becoming that dinosaur. A lot of people are moving away from security gateways because they are expensive, they are difficult to manage, and they're difficult to implement in general. So we do have a Avanan offering. I believe it's $2. Is that correct?
It is $2 for the phishing, spear phishing, account takeover monitoring, URL click time protection, and also where it really gets important is having the malware protection, not just for mail and the sandboxing of attachments for Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Citrix ShareFile, Dropbox, other as well.
Yeah, and we've been very successful with that. But we found in the bigger scheme of things, sometimes that's just not enough. Having those preventative mechanisms in there aren't always enough. So now we need to add the monitoring piece. Some of you were taking advantage of our original threat analytics offering. We were ingesting your 365 logs direct into our SIM, and we were very successful on that. However, we came to a point where we needed to expand. We needed to do more. We wanted to account for more than just Office 365. Because as I indicated earlier, a lot of your information is now out in the cloud, and that needs to be accounted for. It needs to be monitored. So recently, when was the actual month that this came to fruition?
I think it was December.
December. Yeah,
I think
sounds right.
I think it was
December. We decided to partner with an organization by the name of SaaS Alerts. So we were at a conference together, and another organization was saying how great we would be together, and it had us thinking. I'll be honest with you, because as you know, I'm very transparent. I was in the corner thinking, you guys don't need them guys. We do exactly what they do. And then, as with most conferences, as we're sitting at the bar later, we started having a conversation, and we started realizing, wow, there's some gaps in what we do that they can help us with. They have some gaps that we can help them with. And so the conversation started, and we've made now an official partnership where we, instead of just doing 365, we can now account for all of these applications that you see here, whether it's Google Workspace, all of the information that you have in IT Glue, Salesforce, etc., because these need to be monitored just as much as your Office 365 environments need to be monitored. Now, here is the big question, because I've received this when we made this partnership is, well, I'm already a SaaS Alerts partner. What is the benefit to switching over to you? Well, it's easy. Our SOC. They do not provide SOC services. There are, and I can definitely account for this, there are a lot of alerts. Most of what they do is, all of what they do is completely automated. So you're going to receive an influx of alerts. Now, I haven't accounted for one single person that I've talked to that was already a partner doing this that didn't have the emails redirected to another folder, which means they weren't seeing them. So that kind of negates what you're currently doing with the solution. So we've been working with them for a long time. We've been fine-tuning the product. We've been fine-tuning our offering. So now we can provide you those full SOC services and contact you when you need to be contacted.
I mean, I think that's a big deal. I've heard it a couple times, like, well, I've already got SaaS alerts. Why do I need you guys? If you wake up every time they send you an alert in the middle of the night, or you have already a 24/7 staff that's awake, alive, eyes on glass, seeing it in near time as it's happening, then you don't need us. But if you want to sleep, if you want somebody looking at it and triaging it and getting rid of the false positives and making it better so that you don't have to look at every single alert, then you really do need us, because that's where the SOC comes into play, and that's what's powerful and important.
Exactly. The attack, the threat landscape has significantly changed as time goes on. I've had a lot of conversation with people, and most think that most attacks are coming from Russia, right? Or they're coming from North Korea, Romania. No, they're coming from all over. And what you have to do is you have to have that accountability of where your people are at, right? When someone's trying to log in from South Africa, is there someone actually vacationing, or is this an adversary trying to compromise your account? Same goes true with the dark web. The dark web is not just something in Hollywood. I referenced the Hackers movie earlier, right, where the dark web's on there. This is a legit environment where information is being, your information is being stolen and sold. I was on a webinar earlier where we were talking about passwords and integrity of your passwords, and how many users out there will use the same exact password on their Facebook account that they're using in their Gmail, that they're using in their whole work organization. If one of those platforms gets breached, now they have keys to the kingdom. Your information's out there, it's being sold, and everybody's buying it up. And so that's why in one night we'll see someone from Vietnam, Romania, South Africa, Chile. It just goes on and on. We'll see multiple people trying to hit your account. That's because your information's out there. And so this needs to be accounted for. How these adversaries are attacking you in the cloud is similar to how they're attacking you on your endpoint. First thing they're going to do is perform some form of reconnaissance on you. So great example is phishing attacks. I still say bar none, phishing attacks is the largest attack surface.
Yeah.
I've gotten questions around this whole Russia-Ukraine incident and how now there's the new cyber war happening. We have seen an uptick in phishing attacks. They are out there actively still trying to use the same exact tactics. There are applications out there where, Threat posted a nice article on this where Russian hackers, nation state actors, created this fake "let's attack Russia" thing, right? Let's side with the Ukraine. Let's attack Russia. Let's do this. Here's a DDoS tool, but it was created by the Russians. And what it's doing is it's a credential stealer. So you try to run this DDoS, you think it's working, it's really not. And now they're stealing your credentials. So what they're going to do is they're going to do this low and slow reconnaissance on you. They're going to get your information. They're going to figure out how can they get in your environment. Once they get in your environment, they're going to figure out how they're going to maintain that command of your account. We've seen it. A lot of phishing attacks. I'm sure you've received phishing attacks from people that you know, and it's because their account was hacked. Now they're using your contacts against you to steal more and more information. And then once they're done with you, now they have a couple of options. They're going to sell your information. They're going to destroy everything within your email. And then they're going to use those credentials to breach your environment. And now we're dealing with the endpoint.
So Corey, let's if you don't mind, let's pause. We had a couple questions that I think you might actually be able to answer because Corey has these, if not every other day, probably daily conversations with the technical team over at SaaS Alerts, and has probably driven Chip just a little bit batty. Because all too often somebody says, "Oh, we're ready for you guys. We're good. There's no scaling issues. There's no nothing," and they don't understand the Corey factor. When Corey gets his hands on something, he is ripping it apart every which way that he can to make sure he really understands it, so that we're delivering something that is better than just the tool. So one of the things, and we know that this is a problem of sorts. Asking the question, Walt said, when do you anticipate partners having access to the SaaS Alerts console?
So there's two main things that we're working on, two main projects. One is a multi-tenancy console. Unfortunately, they were not set up for an organization like us, kind of like Michael just said. And so I can't operationalize having every single one of our partners in their own separate instances. Let's say 200 of our partners are using our MDR solution and they have a SaaS Alerts platform. That would have to be 200 unique aliases that myself and every one of my SOC analysts would have to use and maintain and account for to log into all of these separate instances. Then we also have the issue, and we've seen it in the past, where modifications where we can't do our job. We are the trained experts at this. So I'll be honest, we want to have the keys to the kingdom so that we can control this. We've had issues on the endpoint side where, an organization would make an exclusion for something, in the Cylance portal. And then they wonder why they got hit with that virus. Well, it's because of this exclusion you made. So it prohibits us from being able to do our job efficiently. So with that being said, we are working on a multi-tenancy console with them of getting that developed and with proper, role-based access controls to make sure that you have the full visibility that you need without having the hanging carrot to make a oopsie. Oopsie poopsie. Yeah, of course.
Andrew had a question, and I think we might have experienced this as well, but he said that he's had SaaS Alerts come in an hour after the event happened. He said, does our integration have faster response? So Corey, I don't want to put this on SaaS Alerts because I know that we had this problem on our previous platform where we were seeing slow alerting to an event. But I don't believe that we've seen that problem with what we're dealing with and how we're doing it, are we?
Not at the moment. So I'll tell you, they will run into the same issue that we ran into with direct integration into our SIM/SOAR. Is we're at the mercy of Microsoft. If Microsoft does not log the event, and I'm sure everyone here aware is Microsoft doesn't always do what they're supposed to do. If Microsoft doesn't log the event for an hour, we don't know about it. And there's no way for us to know about it. Industry standard is 15 minutes. However, we have seen instances where Microsoft is just slow, or they don't create certain logs. So we have to take the best advantage of what we can get. And that's why it's not just this one thing. That's why we need a collection of tools. That's why we like to stack Avanan with this offering, because they can take a form of automated response that may be something that's not immediately logged by Microsoft.
Cool. That's all the questions we've got at the moment.
Okay. And let's see here. Okay, another big, so we talked about the multi-tenancy console. Another big thing that we are full forced, head forward, working towards is better responses. Now, the Avanan product has automated responses. That is your prevention tool. But there's some things that it can't account for, and we're working with SaaS alerts to establish better response plans. Now, as we dive into this, there's 3 key terms I need to make sure you're aware of. One is response, and that's going to be an immediate action to some form of event, right? So, someone's logging in as my account in Russia, an immediate response needs to be happened. So the first thing that needs to be happening is we need to mitigate the situation. So immediately take that response to stop what's happening, minimize the damage, because it's already happened, right? They've already logged in with my account. Now I need to minimize the damage. That is what we are going to be responsible for, being able to mitigate these situations. The next step would be remediation. Remediation is post after we've stopped this attack. What do we need to do to get back to where we should be, right? I need to change my password. If I didn't have 2FA enabled, I need to get 2FA enabled. If I did have 2FA enabled, I might need to change some things up, right? Because somehow they got my 2FA OTP, right? Or maybe they have something on my phone where they're able to grab that text message that came through. Next step is conditional access rule, right? How easy is it just to set up an easy conditional access rule that says, hey, all of Solutions Grant employees will only and always log in from the United States. Don't allow any logins from anywhere else. Simple and easy as that. So those are the forms of remediation that we can assist you with. Will we and do we have direct access to do this for you? No. Right. We're still going to have to rely on you for certain steps, but we're going to help guide you to those steps to make sure that these types of incidents do get remediated.
I would also say that, I hear this a lot, and got MSPs, saying, well, you're going to remediate everything. And I know they don't mean that absolute word of everything. And so I typically try to break it down at least into 2 categories. And I always tell people there is the cause and there is the effect. The cause is not our problem. It's technically not our concern. It's something that's done because a user clicked on something that they shouldn't have. The MSP didn't follow the best practices and do the configurations that they would. There is an open port. There's something that goes on that allows this incident to take place. The cause of that is just not on us. It's not something we can care about. It's not something that we can do. No, we can advise, we can guide. I mean, look, you've all heard us probably talk about MFA. I use the Frank's Red Hots analogy. If everybody's heard that commercial, you put that thing on everything. And I think that's what people should do when it comes to MFA. If you can put it there, do it. The other part of this is the cause is on you, not on us, but the effect. The effect is not your job. It is not your responsibility. It is our job. It is our responsibility. And it's when everything has now gone sideways and the house is on fire, things are being done, threat actors are taking data. It is now our job. And it's like a firefighter. We don't have time to ask for permission. You don't want us asking for permission. You just want it to stop. So as we continue to talk about those areas of responsibility and we talk about this big word of remediation, focus on the cause and the effect. And remember, this is a team effort. So if you're doing more of the work to stop the cause, then we're doing less work to have to remediate the effect.
Correct. And that's like I echoed earlier, having that expertise, that human factor is crucial. When it comes to these responses, we even had our own trial that happened this week. I'll say of this. We received an alert for Michael's account being logged in from another country. And so boom, here we go. Now we're in response mode. What's going on? What's happening? Luckily for us, we have those trained experts that were able to quickly identify what happened. But first thing that we did, like we recommend for everybody, we need to take some form of mitigating action. I called Michael up. I need you to change your password. We're still investigating what's going on, right? I mean, we have a fortress of security. So if someone is legit logging in, of course, that's what Michael was asking. Well, how did this happen? If we have this, we're looking into that, boss. I'll get back to you here in a little bit. And
But
so, sure enough,
I had to be a good user.
yeah,
I mean, I had to take on the role of being a user and not being a security guy because that was the problem. I immediately did exactly what Corey said. I started going to the, what the hell, man? How's this even possible? I mean, think about this. All of these things that we have in place, what you're telling me that just happened shouldn't be possible. And like you said, exactly what he said, we're looking into it. I need you to change your password. Okay, I'll change my password right now. And I did. So that was me being responsible for my side of being a user.
so once we had the mitigation happening, we went into, okay, what's really happening? And we were able to dive in quickly to determine it wasn't an adversary. What it was our CASB solution had a failover on a server that put him, for some reason, out in another country on their server. So there was no incident. But this was a great way to test our incident response. It was a great way to validate our current configuration. So in the
Yeah, I'm
grand
not real
scheme of
happy about my
things,
password change because I'm going to tell you, I probably typed it in wrong like 8 times already today because it's like, oh man, a new password. And my passwords are never nice. I mean, yeah, my brain is not accustomed to the new password yet. Thanks, Corey.
yeah, never fails. So where do we go from here? So there's a few options. I know a lot of you are already taking advantage of our Avanan offering. I know some are taking advantage of the threat analytics offering. So we can actually combine those offerings into our MDR for the cloud offering at a decent price. I'll say it that way, right? So you can scan this, you can get on the call with Dave and we can discuss it. Another question I see with the email security through Avanan product as well is, well, what if I'm already using Proofpoint? So my recommendation, I have two different recommendations. One, I say, I feel confident you can get rid of Proofpoint. Are you doing any type of archiving or anything else that would keep you with Proofpoint? If Avanan already has those features, you can switch totally over to Avanan. Then we have some partners that run Avanan side by side with the gateway. It's totally up to you.
We do it.
Yeah, we do it.
We do it intentionally because we've got archiving, we've got some secure messaging, we've got large file send capability that we love about our gateway technology. But the security aspects, we're far more reliant on Avanan, and they can run side by side. That's the beauty of it.
Mhm. Now, can you get these offerings separately? Yes. But just keep in mind the amount of visibility. Unfortunately, we cannot help you at all with Proofpoint. I can say, hey, you should check this, but there's no visibility. We are not going to be feeding any of the logs into it.
So I think there was a couple questions. Dave, you answered Keith's question. I think this was a really good one though. So let's talk about it just for a minute because I think we're doing really good on time. We talk about this cloud MDR and we would love for it to be a one-to-one. And we could have done that. We could have said, hey, we're going to bill you to the high mark of consumption, but it didn't feel really good. The reason it comes off the rails a little bit is that when it comes to how we've put this together between our SOC services and what we're doing with Avanan and what we're doing with SaaS alerts is with Avanan, we are charging you on mailboxes, not shared mailboxes, but truly licensed mailboxes. Now we're going to protect your shared mailboxes and everything else, but you get billed for that. When it comes to the log monitoring side and the SaaS alert side and what we're doing there, it is every single account that can log in. Think about that for a moment. Log in. And there's certain aspects of them that you want us doing for sure that you should assume you want to be billed for. Your GA accounts. Those have the ability to do some very destructive actions along with everything that they're doing well. So that would throw off the count a little bit where if we did a simple, hey, yes, it's going to be $3 for cloud MDR. It's not going to actually be that. So Dave, you did a really good job in answering that. Thank you. But there's also what the team has been doing is when they onboard somebody, and Corey, hold me to being honest here. I think what you guys were doing is gathering all of the accounts that we're seeing and being able to show the partner, hey, here's all of the accounts that we have. Do all of these accounts have to log in? And if you've got all of these accounts that are created and they don't need login capability, then disable the ability to log in, which then reduces your bill. But also, more importantly, it isn't just about the money, it reduces the threshold for threat. Because now what you're doing is you're taking away more and more that can get in because they don't need it. Anything you want to add to that, Corey?
Yeah, I see a lot of our partners being shocked. I don't have this many accounts. Well, you have that many accounts that can log in. So there's been a mixture. There's been partners that'd be like, oh yeah, well that's just a test account. Oh, that's just an external account for another vendor that I've had that they haven't logged in for 2 years. Then why is it still there?
Right.
Why is that out there? Why is that something? Because if they haven't logged in for 2 years, apparently you're not even monitoring it, right? So that account needs to be disabled, removed, or at least block sign in for the time being. So we are dramatically helping people shrink their attack surface in 365 with the accounts that are out there that shouldn't be there.
So thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity that we've had. And anybody that wants to follow up, Dave has put his Calendly out there. Like Corey said, send an email to support if you don't know exactly which board you want it to go to, and we'd be more than happy to chat with you. If anybody wants to have higher level, collaborative security conversations, let us know. Like you heard Corey say earlier, he just got done doing a webinar for one of our other partners. Corey and I do webinars for you guys. So if you want to have something purposefully built, you want to bring in the so-called subject matter experts, and you think one of the bearded wonder twins can help you out. Yes, I called us the bearded wonder twins. Dave, that left you out, obviously. We're more than happy to help. So thank you very much. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.